This is sort of the perpetual problem for pharmaceutical companies is that they face these patents for huge blockbusters that end up accounting for a large majority of their sales. I mean, in Merck's case, almost half the company's revenue last year came from Keytruda, which is facing a patent expiration in 2028. This is a cancer drug, one of the best-selling pharmaceutical products of all time. And so Merck has been looking for other products to replenish its pipeline. Like you said, this is one of them. They did another deal earlier this year. And so looking to flu treatments, which flu, even though we have vaccines, antivirals for, the vaccines are effective. But for a long time, scientists, researchers, drug makers have been hunting for more effective and different products to help prevent the flu, which lots of Americans die from still each year.
So where would Merck like to be in terms of, I mean, I guess when you're thinking back, having half your sales tied to one drug, while it's a great drug and it's all good, that's probably not what you want from a diversification standpoint. What does Merck say about what they'd like to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because a lot of pharma companies end up facing this problem. I mean, we look at Novo Nordisk and they're facing a similar issue. I mean, they're not necessarily looking at patent expirations, but they're looking at government price negotiations and cuts for their best-selling drugs, Ozempic and Wegovy. The majority of their sales come from those products. And so a lot of times pharmaceutical companies end up in this situation where they have one product accounting for the majority of sales. And so Merck is not taking this approach to like looking to just one company, big deal, one company to get another blockbuster to replace Keytruda. They're looking to have sort of one analyst, which we have in the story, called it a string of pearls M&A approach, looking to more like bite-sized deals to sort of diversify its pipeline and look to a couple different products to hopefully replenish that. AbbVie was in a similar situation with its best-selling drug, Humira, and they now have, and that was an arthritis drug, they now have 2 arthritis treatments that are sort of accounting for like half and half of what Humira was bringing in. So it's interesting, and all the pharmaceutical companies are sort of taking different approaches to how they're doing it, but it seems like sort of doing this string of pearls approach, having a couple of different products is the way that they're thinking about it right now.
I feel like I remember that once upon a time, a lot of these companies that were losing patent protection on their drugs would come out with like a tweak to the drug. Maybe it's in gel capsule form as opposed to tablet form, and that would, extend the patent for a little bit longer. Is that something that they still do?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that they still do. There are lots of ways to extend a patent, getting a new indication for pediatrics or different formulations or combinations. But again, it sort of only gives you a couple more years. It doesn't extend the product's lifeline by like another 10 years, which that's what we're looking at. These companies have to think decades, maybe a decade or more in advance about what's happening in terms of their pipeline. So while that's somewhat of a temporary solution or something that can be done earlier in a product's lifeline, it's like once you get to this point where it's sort of crunch time, they need to be thinking about what more can we bring in to make up for this.
Is the Trump administration and the regulators, are they okay with these deals? I mean, do they ever challenge any of these deals, or are they kind of under the radar?
So far, it's sort of under the radar. I mean, this one's interesting, actually. There was another analyst note this morning about how they don't think that the FTC, per se, will have a problem with this deal, but it's interesting to do a deal in the infectious disease space, given the Department of Health and Human Services stance on vaccines, infectious disease right now. And while this isn't a vaccine, it's just an interesting time in that space in general. So while there might not be additional FTC scrutiny, it might be something, and again, this is sort of hypothetical, but just like given the climate right now, is something that HHS could potentially keep an eye on or look at.